Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Esports Racing League presented by Spec Racer Sports, Alliance Autosport, and Grassroots Motorsports Magazine here on Apex Racing TV. And over the course of our 9-week regular season and then the winner-take-all championship event called the Runoffs, we hope to bring you some of the best racing around in 3 different classes well known to club racers here in the United States: Spec Miata, or the Mazda MX-5s, Spec Racer Ford, and the Formula 4 Formula Cars. I'm Greg Ginsburg, and along with Tim Cox in the commentary booth and John Robertson in the virtual production trailer, we descend upon this 50-year-old circuit, not only known for being the home of Petit Le Mans, but also for the red Georgia clay that inevitably finds its way into the nooks and crannies of our racers' rides. Every single one of them by the end of the night, I guarantee you. The gravity cavity may be gone, but welcome to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. And as we do each week, we're going to feature two 20-minute sprint races, and first on track will be those Formula 4 racers, followed by Spec Miata, and each contesting their second races of this very young season. Our Spec Racer 4 drivers, well, they're going to join us next week at Lime Rock Park. And so, good evening, Tim. And, you know, after another week of tight competitive racing last week at Sonoma, what do you think are going to be the keys to a successful evening of racing here at a very, very different type of circuit, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta?
Well, I think based on what we've seen during practice and even a bit in qualifying, those that can keep it on the track, as well, there you go, there's someone off in the background there, I think it's going to be interesting to see what it's like in racing. Although normally, to be fair, you do tend to rein it in a little bit, but I mean, I'm equal measures excited, sad, and disappointed tonight, Greg. Excited because we're going to be in for a great evening of racing, as always, in this league. Sad because, well, I'm sitting in for DJ Clark. He gets to see out the rest of the season with you guys. And disappointed because in your little, 2 key points about this circuit, you didn't mention the one fact that broke you last season when I mentioned to you that the track layout looks like an elephant's head.
Elephants? Yes. See, it took you all of about half a second to cause me to break up here tonight.
There you go.
Congratulations.
No problem at all.
So that was one. What was the other?
Well, it's all seriousness, it's going to be all about that run out, down the hill towards the last sort of few turns to the chicane. That's the big breaking point. We're going to see plenty of overtakes there. A few people might risk it into turn 1, but more often than not, you're better off just biding your time a little bit because it's such a swooping, fast right-hander. No real, massive braking, especially in these Formula 4 cars. So it's, well, as we see, that's Russ Lundberg having a bit of a rotation there. And the trouble with these cars is they really suffer with lift-off oversteer, Greg. Yes. And combined with keeping getting the tyres up to temperature, once you're up there, you're okay. But these first few laps are going to be treacherous. We do have nice, cool track temperatures, though. Not, that's crept up a bit since practice. 93 degrees Fahrenheit. It was around about the 70 mark in practice, so that's probably playing a little bit of the part where a few of the drivers struggling right now during qualifying and experiencing a few balance issues and having a rear end come loose on them.
Yeah, and you were talking about liftoff oversteer, and I think as we saw in very quick succession, 2 drivers go off track. I think Wozencroft and also Russ Lundberg at the top of turn 3, that the highest portion of the course. There is an area there where in the touring cars we see them usually crashing that big curb at the apex, but here they certainly can't do that. They have to transition very quickly from the gas to the brake, back to the gas, and and as you said, smoothness is key, and that's one portion of the track as we watch now Morgan Burkhardt and also I believe Beans Forster taking that section, and you can see even there where Beans Forster rear end of the car steps out a little bit on him. So that is definitely going to be one of the corners here where we're going to want to watch. So real quick, Tim, as we're now just about 9 minutes into this 15-minute open qualifying session to set the grid for tonight's race, let's very quickly look back at round 1 for our Formula 4 racers, and that was last week at Sonoma Raceway, where DJ Alessandrini came to Sonoma And, well, he laid the smackdown on the rest of the Formula 4 field, putting his car on pole, taking the win by over 14 seconds over Beans Forster, and Kevin Zhu coming in third on the last step of the podium. And I was talking to DJ late last week, and it does not look well. We can tell now he's not in the field. He's not here on track. He's not going to be joining us here this evening. He's actually at the SEMA show in Las Vegas this weekend with his employer, Hawk Performance, the brake pad manufacturer. Hopefully we'll see DJ back in a car later this season, but he said it's going to be awfully tough with some work commitments. And so if we take a look at the point standings, and I know we don't have the graphics for you here this week, it is DJ Alessandrini sitting atop the points with 26, Beans Forster at 24, Kevin Zhu at 18, 1 point back from there, Caleb Pocock. Then we've got Ray Blethen, who came home in 5th. His teammate, Stephen Blethen, came home in 6th, right behind him. And I think the margin was only about a half a second separating those two cars. But Wayne Buttermore, because he ran clean last week, he actually picked up a bonus point. He is sitting tied with Ray Blethen for 5th. Stephen Blethen is 7th. Joaquin Effinger, Justin Huffman, and Andrew Benna, your top 10 going into tonight's second round for the Formula 4 racers.
It's not, plenty close times at the moment in qualifying. We've definitely got one, sort of one breakaway group of our top 4, Burkhardt, Huffman, Forster, and Vogel. And then we sort of into a second group almost, Greg, of Justin Huffman, Blethen, Rosencroft. And to be fair, you probably even drop into that Brewster, Joshua Justice too. So, as always, it's going to be intriguing. I'd love to see a couple of good, strong battles going on. And I think, if we learned anything from last time out at Sonoma, where track traditionally you're not really meant to overtake around there. It's not the best for it, is it? Let's face it. But I don't think these guys got the memo really too much, did they, Greg? And they found ways of overtaking around there. We had some absolutely epic racing, of course, in the Spec Racer Fords. That brilliant drive from the front to the from the back to the front from Wang Chilin. Who could forget that?
No, absolutely not. As he came from all the way, and we're going to talk about this after the break, but came from the back of the pack. I think started 13th or 14th, and worked his way up, and on the very last lap managed to take the lead away from Beans Forster, and the margin of victory. I have it here. Margin of victory, 22 hundredths of a second. It was an amazing fight to see. We didn't think that Lynn would be able to get up to our leader once that final lap started, but they came into turn 7 and went down into that really tight section on the back half of the course, and somehow made it work, as we see a couple of drivers having some more issues. I think that was over by turn 7. I think Jamison Huffman and Wayne Buttermore getting together, as we now have 2 minutes left to go in qualifying. Morgan Burkhardt is currently your provisional pole sitter, and the last time I looked here about a minute ago, Morgan had about an 1100th of a second advantage over Jamison Huffman. It is now quite a bit better than that, as he has now an 0.8 of a second advantage right now over Huffman. Beans Forster another 1600ths back from there than John Vogel, about a full second back from there.
Great race. Getting the last stages now of qualifying. Not a lot left on the clock. It's coming up onto 14 minutes, so about just over a minute and 10. So just enough time to maybe, certainly for these drivers to finish off their lap. Just having a bit of a look at nobody's really just started there. Probably Caleb Pocock, who's yet to set a time. He's got pretty much a one-shot, all-or-nothing shooting for the moon scenario here where he'll be starting from the back of the field, but then realistically, the owner weight is up when you're at the bottom, and he's had his times deleted so far. He's completed 3 laps, and it's been one that's fallen foul of track limits, and that's why he hasn't managed to post a time yet. But expecting good things from Caleb. If he can get a lap in, that is, with about 25 seconds left on the clock, it's running out for him, and he's about halfway through his lap, so it's going to be close. I don't think he's going to get over the line here, Greg.
No, he has only a couple seconds to make this work. Let's see if he can get it done, Tim.
It's 5 seconds, and Vogel will probably be the last ones across the line here. It's not fully hard and fast shut like you see in some iRacing series, where as soon as it clicks over to that time, that's it, you're done and dusted. The drivers do have a little bit of grace to finish off their lap here, as Vogel, no improvement from him. He goes about half a second slower, and Caleb Pocock, no time set, so he will be starting from the back of the field. It's just watching Justice come down the hill into the chicane. He's got a good bouncing across the curves there. Not what he would have wanted there, as Sherman improves on time but not place. So he starts 11th as things stand at the moment. And Justice, well, he goes slower by around about a quarter of a second. And I'm just having a bit of a look. I think that could well be, I think it's only Deacon Greenfield maybe. I'm not too sure when he came across the line exactly, but well, that's one way to finalise things. Just this lovely 360 there. Greenfield coming down. What sort of time is it going to be? His previous best, 1:22.09, and he goes to 1:21.94, but doesn't move up a place. He remains in 7th as the 36. That's Pocock right along, just trying to utilise this extra few.
Yeah, usually the last couple seconds, and looks like he's now off track. So we should have our drivers going and setting up here for the grid here in just a moment. There we go, and now we've got the got our drivers gridding up. Tim, if you could take the grid here.
I would absolutely love to. Be an honour, as Morgan Burkhardt qualifies on pole, and it's a perennial sparring partner. Jameson Huffman starts alongside him on the front row. It's Beans Forster. He's got John Vogel for company on the second row, with Justin Huffman. There's Raymond Bleffin for company on the third row of the grid. And Deacon Greenfield saw improve in time, but not in places. He starts 7th with Joshua Justice alongside him. Andrew Rosencloft, well, he's got Jim Brewster for company on the 5th row, and then rounds out your top 10. Mark Sherman has Joaquin Effinger alongside him on the 6th row of the grid, and his 7th and last complete row is made up by Wayne Budsmore and Russ Lundberg. And Kelly Pocock, well, we saw that didn't get in there with the lap time due to having them all deleted due to off track infringements. Yeah, got there in the end. Managed to get my words out, and yeah, nobody's elected to start from the pits. Everybody has taken to the grid, and for the last few seconds, and we'll head off beyond the Porsche 911 safety car, and we'll go racing as well. That's Jameson Huffman there, bit of an interesting one. Starting with the mind games very early on there, Greg. Cut in front of Morgan Birdhart. Just drove off early, sat in front of him. I think this might be setting things up for what we're about to experience ahead.
All right, well, let's do this as we've got our drivers now heading down very quickly. Let's talk about our Sponsor for tonight's first race, that's Alliance Autosport, based in Columbus, Ohio. They found success both at the club and professional levels, garnering multiple championships, including 8 SCCA championships, 3 SCCA Pro Racing championships, and a USF 2000 National Class Championship. Alliance Autosport's team members are dedicated, hardworking, and know what it takes to win. Alliance's SCCA Enterprises Great Lakes Division customer service representative for Formula Enterprises 2 and Spec Racer Ford 3, and their services include arrive and drive packages for both, as well as Trans Am 2. In addition, they offer customer car prep, trackside support, transportation, storage, part sales, data analysis, and hospitality, as well as driver coaching development. To join Alliance Autosport on the winning track, check them out at allianceautosport.com.
I'm genuinely amazed that everyone's got away relatively smoothly. These cars, you know, a little bit dicey on these opening couple of laps, Greg, and we experienced rid of almost a free wide into turn 1. Luckily, a few of them yielded, but Jameson Husband took full control here. But leading on the first lap, you're then going to have the car behind attacking you, which is Morgan Burkhart. Those two sparring partners, but Beans Forster coming along for the ride, and this top 3 really starting to break away as, Raymond Bleffen, I think, has had a bit of an issue. He's fallen down through the order. Yes, there he is, and he's going to rejoin well down, all the way down in 14th. Not the start that he would have hoped for, but it's really, really broken up this front group where you've got Huffman, Burkhardt and Forster, and then a gap to Vogel, and then a gap to Greenfield, who leads the charge with Justice, Huffman, Rosencroft, Brewster and Effinger right behind them. So come down through the S's. It's as close as you like, really. And Burkhardt, it's always toying with Huffman right now. You see where he's supplying the pressure. He's having a bit of a look up the inside here. So we're going to see a change for the lead. But I tell you what, Huffman is holding on tight right around the outside there, but it's not good enough. Burkhardt into the lead, and Huffman runs wide, and Forster now has a chance to get himself up into second here, Greg, as they're going to duel it out up the hill and then descending down in towards the chicane. Huffman is on the inside from Forster. Forster is slightly ahead, and he is getting the slipstream from Burkhardt. This is going to be close. It's going to require a lunge from Huffman, and he decides against it and slots back in, and Huffman goes from first to third in the space of a lap. So what's happening all up and down the field as we predicted. The second group, it's the peloton as you might call them. Justice leading that one, but I'll tell you what, Greenfield having a good look up the inside here into 1, and that is the, or is it? I was about to say that's the position done, but I tell you what, Justice is giving this as good as he can get, and this is going to slow the pair of them up here to come through 3 and 4, because everyone else is now backed right into them, and they're almost getting offline. They've managed to sort themselves up here. Justice ahead of Greenfield, who had to slot back in after it looked like he'd gone south ahead of Joshua Justice, but now needs to be careful and have one eye in the mirrors, because Rosencroft, who's already picked up place, and Brewster likewise behind them too. There's a little bit of a lock up there, and I think that was from Joshua Justice, who's trying to throw out the anchors and come to a hole and get stopped in time. And now we've got Brewster on the attack. Wow, talking of attacks, Bean Forster looking for a repeat of what he did on the previous lap, and just, well, I tell you what, Jameson Huffman, Justin then, apologies, he's fallen well back, as Greenfield having another lunge here.
There we go. Yeah, Greenfield tried to sneak right underneath them, going down into 10A and 10B. But now Huffman, the elder, trying to reverse course and get him coming down the hill. But a great battle, Tim, that we've got going on up front here between our two leaders, between Forster and Burkhardt. Burkhardt there got on the brakes for just a moment as Forster went up the inside, going up towards turn 3. And that is going to bring Huffman the younger, Jameson Huffman in the 89 machine, now right up to the back of his teammate Morgan Burkhardt as they come out of 5. Looks like Huffman drops a wheel into that gravel trap. Driver's right coming out of 5, but doesn't slow him down much. And now all 3 of our leaders here nose to gearbox as they come out of turn number 7. as we are currently working lap number 4 here from Road Atlanta.
Lunge up the end. Lovely move there from Raymond Bleffen. Oh, this is from the opening lap, and it was almost a textbook move there into the chicane, Greg, but just lost the rear end due to those cold tires.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that's that. And you see as he goes right around there, coming out of turn 10A, puts it into the gravel trap on the exit of 10B. And that is all she wrote for the 99 machine. Is Josh Justice now finding himself, actually that wasn't the 99 machine, Justice now making a move on Greenfield, but there we go.
That's he's going rally crossing. Well, he's done well to keep that out of the wall, Greg. I don't know how he's managed that one.
I don't know how, but I think he's probably going to get a slowdown now as the way he went over turn 3, Tim. And, you know, we saw the previous lap, you know, we saw that little bit of rear brake lock up, and I'm wondering if perhaps he's got some brake bias adjustment issues there. But he went into turn 1 very, very hot, did not get the car woed down, and you saw there how he didn't do impact the wall, you know, harder than he did. I just don't know.
So you see the replay. So this is on board from Burkhardt's perspective. So he's looking right around the outside of Beans Forster, who's on driver's right now. I think, now this happened on the previous lap, Greg. Beans Forster seems to blink around that point in the trap.
Yeah.
And it just, Morgan just, he gets spooked by it each time, understandably, where he doesn't want to take himself out as well, you know, the pair of them out, because that will basically gift this to Jameson Huffman, who just off camera, he's managed to take the lead. As, oh, that was a bit of a lunge in there. Okay, he is ahead now. Look, there you go. Right on cue. Turn 1. Has a good blink again.
Blink again. It's like, you know, I know of drivers in real life, Tim, that have issues at that portion. Well, actually, not at that portion of the course. Going up at the furthest portion of the course, away from the pits, over by turn 7, when their radios give out. But very odd that it always happens just at turn 1, and doesn't seem to happen anywhere else on the course. But you know, that has moved Burkhardt down into 3rd. And I was going to say he was under risk of being pressured there by John Vogel, but Vogel puts his car around, puts the number 4 machine around over at the exit of turn number 5, and he is now fallen almost 9.5 seconds back from Burkhardt, who is still running in 3rd.
He's running the risk now, especially if he's you know, overheats his tires. Well, see this. You can see another change to league. No, there's Forster just elects to sit behind. But you know, especially if the guys behind him, Greenfield and Justice, work together, he couldn't find himself at risk of losing 4th place, let alone just losing all that time that he did from that spin.
And so now we've got Jameson Huffman in that Burgundy 89 car. And, you know, Tim, we were talking about this because Huffman was having lots of issues at the tail end of practice and through the early portions of qualifying, specifically at this section of the track over by turn 3. He seems to have settled down a little bit, I guess, as he's in race pace and might have a little more fuel in the car than he had for qualifying as well.
Look in the back of the screen. Look who that is.
Yes.
I mean, last time around he did, he set the, well, obviously the fastest lap of the race so far, 120.5. That was 8 tenths quicker than these two in front of them. And now he's going to be right up in the back of them. He's within slipstream range, which is around about 6-7 tenths of a second in these cars.
And it's going to be easier now with Huffman and Forster side by side going down. It's going to put a very big hole in the air for Burkhardt. He's not going to be up in a position to make a move yet, but certainly, Tim, if he doesn't get spooked going into turn 1 again, I think he's going to be in a real good position here. And if he can get around Forster, all the better, since Forster's been freaking him out right about now.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, he might. No, he's going to be a little bit too far back to have a lunge at the inside of Huffman here, but Forster really hanging it right around the outside on the ragged edge of Rhodesian, and these two still side by side.
And
Somebody's got to yield.
And Burkhardt, once again, trying to apex turn 3 a little bit early. I think perhaps, I know Burkhardt is not running triple screens or VR and may not have had a good idea of how far to his left Beans Forster was, and so might have turned in a little early just as a cautionary for caution there in order not to get into the side of the 231 car, but he certainly has very good pace, better pace than Huffman or Burkhardt. As we jump back on board right now with John Vogel, and we're going to watch here as Vogel comes through turn 7, and Vogel still sitting back in 4th position, but continuing to lose ground to our 3 leaders.
It was interesting. He lost the rear end before corner, basically as he was turning in there, Greg. And
yeah.
That's what caused him to lose, and just couldn't get out of it, the throttle. And but if you try and do something, try and slow up the car with these, then the front end digs in, and you just lose it even more. So you're constantly balancing on a bit of a knife edge. But right now, 3 temps cover our top 3 as well. Further down the field, just another Huffman. This time, Justin on the attack. He's trying to get past Brewster.
Yeah, as we had 3 wide going into turn 10A, and we've got Brewster and Huffman now side by side coming out of turn 12, now starting their 9th lap. Deacon Greenfield, actually, pardon me, Andrew Wozencroft in the white number 80 machine directly behind them, and this is a great little scrap going on as well. Oh, as we have Brewster going off into the grass at the top of turn 3, we've got now Josh Justice in the 99 machine going off course. That's going to move Andrew Wozencroft from 8th up into 6th position as both Justice and now Brewster continue. But look at that, Joaquin Effinger is coming up into that fight as well. Effinger's picked up 3 positions, started 12th, now running in 9th as we jump back to our battle for the lead as Beans Forster now slots down to the inside, tries to get underneath Huffman coming through 10A, not quite far enough alongside. Is he going to take another run going down the hill through turn 12? He's not, but look at the head of steam that Burkhardt carries down through there, Tim.
He's absolutely got that nailed to a T, that final turn, through 11 and 12. And right now, I tell you what, Greg, it just feels like he's that little bit quicker, but just when it comes to wheel-to-wheel combat, just seems to lose out compared to Forster and Huffman. But I think if he can stay within this sort of range, I think he's going to slingshot himself out of 7, down the hill, and I expect to see him make a move into 10, or well, is he going to actually do it sooner? Because I tell you what, Forster, wow, that's interesting. It's almost like, I don't know about you, Greg, it seemed like Forster seemed to yield that position.
He did, yeah, I think that's the case. And a little bit of brake lock up there from Burkhardt going into turn 7. Yeah, but it looked like Forster maybe felt a little more comfortable sliding in behind Burkhardt and then maybe getting a tow. But for whatever, he is now back alongside Burkhardt on the back straight here as Huffman now moves back over to driver's right to defend against the man in the slipstream, the 231 machine, as they're now going to go 3 wide down the hill into turn 10A. And oh, are they close, as both Burkhardt and Huffman seemed inches away, Tim, from tangling wheels there. Somehow did not, but it allows Forster, who was the 3rd man in, to get a good run out of 12, but cannot quite get alongside.
It was interesting, as they came, down the hill through, 8 and 9, how they were both, Forster and Burkhardt were almost scrobbling over Huffman's slipstream, where they're all, almost having half each, where Huffman was in the middle of the pair of them. But in the end, I'm amazed that did not end in tears, because I'm not even sure there wasn't contact between Huffman and Burkhardt as, well, ding ding, round, well, I would say 2, but I don't know sure which round we're on now with these guys.
It's like 6 or 7, and here we're at it again as they come through turn 6 side by side, Burkhardt and Huffman. Burkhardt to driver's right to the inside. Not only does he get around Huffman, he gets a decent run. Of course, the best run of all is from the 231 machine. And now we've got Beans Forster all the way driver's left. And these drivers are all almost nose to nose to nose as they round the bend, drop down the hill into turn 10A, and Forster's got the inside. Oh, and this time there is contact between Burkhardt and Forster. That gives a little bit of clearance to the 89 machine of Huffman as they roll down turn 12, complete lap number 11, and start lap number 12 with only 5 minutes remaining here from Road Atlanta.
Huffman's pulled out a 1.2 second advantage now, Greg, and these two need to stop fighting. They need to work together to close that gap once again to Huffman. Otherwise, if they start fighting, A, they won't catch him, and B, he's just going to pull further and further away, and it's going to make it a comfortable victory for him. But finally, he can keep it on the black stuff, and we've seen a few drivers been it from comfortable positions across this season, but there you go. Look, 2 attempts out of Huffman already, just by these two slotting in together, working together. Here we go. Out of 6 and 7. Are we going to see them in the same position when they come down at the exit out of 10?
Well, that'll be the question, whether or not Beans Forster goes and challenges for the position coming into 10A. We know that Burkhardt is capable of running so far this race over a half second faster, almost 7/10 faster than the 89 car of Huffman. But he needs, he needs clean air to do it. The moment he and Forster start battling for position, any advantage in speed that Burkhardt has is going to disappear. And we can see now where Burkhardt, at least for the moment, has been able to open up a bit of a gap back to Forster as well, the gap being almost half a second.
At least Burkhardt won't have to get spooked by Forster's blinking through turn 1 there this time around, but you can really see the difference. Forster really, was Burkhardt just having a bit of an off track there.
Yeah, as he dropped the wheel over by the first left-hander there, over by turn 4, starting to roll down the hill, but again, was able to gather it back up. And here we go, Tim, as Burkhardt now within only about a car length of the 89 machine. It took him a lap, but he's been able to erase the advantage that the 89 car has built up, and Forster now doesn't seem to have a response. We'll see if he can pick up anything in the slipstream, but he's fallen now almost a full second back from Morgan Burkhardt.
Forster does seem stronger than Huffman through sort of the back end of the circuit, but let's see if we get a pass here, Greg.
And this is where Burkhardt has seemed very strong as well, and a little bit of brake lockup from the number 40 machine as he tried to sneak underneath the 89 as they're going to go down side by side into turn 12. And this is where Forster might have an advantage and might be able to make up at least a little bit of ground. Now, Tim, this is where we've seen, and sure, we can talk about Burkhardt maybe being a little bit getting spooked by Forster's internet connectivity issues always between turns 1 and 3. But this has been the section of the course where Burkhardt has not looked very strong. He has not looked strong coming up the hill into 3. The last lap we saw him have trouble down through the S's as well. It's not until he gets out of turn 5, and again, a great run out of turn 5 compared to the 89 machine, but this is where Burkhardt seems to shine.
Most certainly it does, Greg. He's so much more stronger, and it's interesting, it's being played out as Huffman, Burkhardt looking for the move around the outside on the exit of 7. Didn't quite get it, but there's squabbling between the pair of them. Look who's back in the fight. It's
there he
Forster.
It's almost like he never left. And here we go, 2 wide once again. Forster's going to slide in between both of them. Going to pick his horse. He's going to go behind Huffman, thinking that maybe he can sneak down the inside of Burkhardt going into 10B. And that's exactly what he's going to try and do. Maybe hold Burkhardt out to the outside as Burkhardt almost puts the wing underneath Huffman's rear wheel. And look at this as they come out on now starting the very last lap here from Road Atlanta, Tim, and it could not be any closer as Jamison Huffman leads Morgan Burkhardt and Beans Forster up the hill towards turn 3. And it looked like, Tim, for a moment there that Morgan Burkhardt was going to drive his front wing right underneath the rear wheel of Jamison Huffman. How it didn't happen, I don't know.
Huffman's playing, he's got this defensive game absolutely nailed on, Greg, right now. He's got it covered off into 10. He knows how to defend from Burkhardt, but this is something different from Burkhardt up the inside.
Yeah, and he did this earlier on in the race as opposed to taking the outside, which he did the lap before. And Huffman gives him just enough room and carries a good amount of speed from the outside as Burkhardt had to pinch things off. And look at that, just to your left, there is the front wing and the front wheel of Beans Forster. And Tim, we may be once again, for I think the fourth time tonight, 3 wide going down into 10A on the very last lap.
I don't want to look here, Greg. I don't want to look. Wow, they've made it through.
They have. Open your eyes as they come underneath the Fox Factory Bridge. Jamison Huffman leads the field, and as they come into turn 12 for the very last time, taking the win, margin of victory, 10 100ths of a second, and pardon me, 10 thousandths of a second. It is Jamison Huffman. Morgan Burkhardt's going to come home in second. Beans Forster will come home in third. And pardon me, that's 900ths of a second. John Vogel holds on for fourth. Deacon Greenfield, there he is in the 36 machine. He comes home in fifth. Andrew Wozencroft will come home in sixth, having made up 3 positions. Josh Justice comes home in seventh. Justin Huffman started fifth tonight. He's going to finish eighth. And after having that off at the top of the uphill S's, Jim Brewster in the same incident, he gets the car righted. He's going to come home in ninth, and rounding out the top 10 is going to be Joaquin Effinger. So there you have it, Tim. That didn't look anything like the Formula 4 race last week, now did it?
No, it didn't. No, polar opposite, really. But it's what we come to expect from these guys, pretty much.
Hey, and if you liked what you saw here tonight, take Stubby's example. Stubby sitting in our chat here tonight, Tim, once again, go ahead and push that big thumbs up button and subscribe to Apex Racing TV if you haven't done so already. So there you go. Jamison Huffman, your winner, 92 thousandths of a second over Morgan Burkhardt. Beans Forster coming home in third. And let's see, we've got Morgan Burkhardt and Jamison Huffman sitting in the green room. Let's bring in Mr. Burkhardt first, Tim.
Morgan, wow, what a race between yourself, Jameson, and Beans. It was looked great from the commentary booth. How was it for yourself inside the car? Because I bet it was a lot more challenging, but equally quite fun, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah, no, it was a really good time. Just kind of playing with Jameson and Beans. So we had a good time. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was both pretty respectful racing. So it might not have been like a little beat and bang at time, but that's all right because we're all talking to each other as the race goes on. So it's all in good fun. I
need to ask, turn one. It seemed like you were getting a bit spooked by Beans's internet connection issues through there. Was that the case when he was sort of side by side and then just blinking out? Yeah, it was a little kind of freaked me out a couple times, especially when I was right behind him going through the corner and I see the back of his car start to wander all over the place. It was a little nerve-wracking, but nothing eventually came of it, so it's not too bad. Definitely. Well, congratulations on the second place, Morgan, and good luck for the next race. Thank you very much. We're going to be driving the car for the first time since the update, so it's been a minute. We'll see what happens. What's the worst that can happen? That's Morgan. Actually, it's quite bad, but yeah. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Beginner's luck and all that. That's Morgan Burkhardt. He finished second here today in Atlanta.
All right, very cool. Let's move on now to our race winner, and that is Jamison Huffman.
Jameson, what a hard-fought victory that was. It seemed like, though, you got the defensive tactics nailed down absolutely to perfection.
Yeah. I got to do a lot of practice for next year for real life. So I made my car the width of the straightaway.
But I think every inch of tarmac you pretty much had covered, squeezing Morgan out and Beans as well. I mean, wow. Was it, did you find you were sort of lacking a bit of pace compared to the guys? Because that's how it seemed up here in the commentary box.
I was running a more safe setup than them, just so I didn't have to deal with as much corrections while there was still a decent amount needed. It wasn't as bad as their setup, but their setup was, I think, probably roughly about 2 or 3 tenths quicker, but I was running a little bit slower because I was just focusing on defense and holding position more than running quick laps because they were going to catch up anyways.
But playing the safe game there, that's my kind of tactics, but then that generally explains why I'm so slow. Congratulations on the victory there, Jameson. That's Jameson Huffman, your race winner here today.
All right, thanks so much. And he kind of let something out of the bag there, Tim. He has been racing in his rookie year, Spec Miata, I believe. Now, remember, his father, Justin, has been racing in the Formula Enterprise 2 cars here in the States for a number of years, very similar to the USF 2000 cars. And my understanding is that Jameson is going to be moving out of those MX-5s and over to the to that FE2 chassis next season. So it should be neat to see. And yeah, the more practice he can get in an open wheel car here, the better. Definitely. So let's do this. Let's take a quick break. Going to thank some of our sponsors and partners. And when we come back, we're going to have that second race of the evening. It's going to be the Spec Miatas, the MX-5 Cup cars here from Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. You are watching Ray Esports, the Fall Tour Season number 7, and we'll be right back.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
And we're back here at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. I'm Greg Ginsburg along with Tim Cox, and this is the Ray Esports Racing League's Fall Series, season number 7. And Tim, that was one hell of a Formula 4 race that we just saw.
It was. Freeway battle for the lead. Who doesn't love that?
Yeah, all night long. It's everything that we didn't get in Formula 4 last week. No offense to DJ. I mean, congratulations by winning by 15 seconds, but I'll take a finish like this anytime. So as we are now about 5 minutes into qualifying, and we have a few drivers that have set flying laps so far. Morgan Burkhardt currently your provisional pole sitter with Charles Bailey. Good to see Charles back with us. Kevin Langer, your top 3. Let's quickly look back. We talked about this a little bit during the Formula 4 race, but last week at Sonoma, our second race was Spec Racer Fords, where Wanshi Lin started at the back of the pack, worked his way all the way to the front, and on the very last lap passed Beans Forster for the victory. Forster finishing second, Huffman finishing third. Just off the podium were Jim Brewster and Charles Vaccaro finishing 4th and 5th. And matter of fact, tied right now. If we take a look at the points, and this has a lot to do with how bonus points are handed out for running clean races, it is Wanshi Lin and Beans Forster and Charles Vaccaro your top 3, then Justin Huffman. But Stevie Ray now is actually tied with Travis Trussell for 5th in the championship, and then in 7th is Tom Froling. And that's given that Travis Trussell started at the back of the pack and worked his way forward, and I think had the hard charger of the race for the second race in a row. He's now finding himself in 5th in points. And if we take a look, and it's been a couple weeks now, but this is going to only be our second Spec Miata race of the season. Our opening race was all the way back at Summit Point Raceway for round 1, back on the 18th of October, where Beans Forster took the win. Murphy Nichols, who is back with us here tonight, didn't race in the Formula Car race, but he is with us out for qualifying right now, currently qualified 3rd. He finished 2nd. Margin of victory for Beans was 65 hundredths of a second. Robert Kucera finished in 3rd, and Darian Taggart and Deacon Greenfield were your top 5. And that is exactly where we stand in the points right now. Forster, Nichols, Kucera, Taggart, and Greenfield as we come into race number 2, Tim. And you know, I don't want to say that Road Atlanta is like the perfect MX5 track, but you know, it's got.
What are you going to?
Yeah, I mean, it's so close. I mean, it really. You can see the great handling of these cars exhibited going through down through the downhill S's. You know, you see the ability to work the draft. On the back straight, the threshold braking from these cars. I mean, the braking isn't the best, but you know, to see the threshold braking going down into turn 10A, to watch these cars drift through turn 5 like we watched Charles Bailey just do right there in that pink number 63 machine. I mean, it's you know, you get a little bit of everything from the MX-5s at this track.
You do, and it's a car that's much loved by many an iRacer. It's where so many people started out their iRacing career because, well, you have no choice ultimately on road course until obviously the addition of the Formula V probably about a year ago now. Where has that time gone? I'm not too sure, but it's what it holds a really strong place in so many iRacers' hearts. You know, so many people picking up the first victories, first podiums, etc. And it's a car that everyone seems to come back to, whether they like it or not, and it always invokes great close racing. I think the big question we need to ask here is, you're allowed a bit of door banging, these cars don't mind it, how many drivers will finish with both wing mirrors on their cars? Because we know that rubber is racing, and these guys, well, they like to get together once in a while.
I'd argue that rubbing is not racing, but that's not going to stop these folks from knocking the mirrors off of one another. And I think the first time we see two drivers go up towards turn 3 side by side will be the first time we see mirrors knocked over. And we're watching here probably not Beans Forster, but Charles Bailey in that pink number 63 machine. And Tim, I guess that's another part of I think what it really excites me about these MX-5s is they're still, they've got a true race suspension underneath them, but they're still softly sprung. And you can see how these drivers will attack the curbing at Road Atlanta, and it will throw the car, a couple inches up in the air, but then, to be able to catch it and continue racing on without losing momentum, really just great to see. Look at that drift there from Kevin Langer, who just put his car up into second fastest here in the session. Kevin Langer just ran a 1:37.03.
But Morgan Byerkart, 1,000th of a second slower. That's how much he beat him by. I mean, a blink of an eye is about a third of a second. I mean, that's just ridiculously close.
And we haven't mentioned it yet, and he's not on track at the moment, but Wan Shi Lin, currently your provisional pole sitter, he's got a 1/1700th of a second advantage. He had a 1/1700th of a second advantage over Kevin Langer, but now Jamison Huffman, they're in the blue and red machine, and that car painted up much like the Spec Miata that he's going to be, I think, giving up at the end of the season. Currently now your second fastest driver on track, with a lap time of 1:36.96, or 1/10 off of Wan Shi Lin. And I guess the question is going to be, with about 4 minutes remaining here in qualifying, whether or not Lin is going to feel it necessary to come out and defend that provisional pole time, because he's only put in 2 flying laps here, Tim.
Well, based on what happened last time out in the Ford Spec Racers, no. He did it from the back of the grid, so if you start from pole, well, I say that, and he's on pit exit right now, so what do I know? Although Morgan Bernhardt just set the fastest second sector of anyone so far. He's definitely on a bit of a hard charge here and finding some time out on track where a lot of people aren't. Although he does go he does go fractionally. No, sorry, apologies, I'm looking at the wrong time there. It's just updated my end. He goes fractionally slower by about a tenth. So
yeah, about a tenth slower. A 1:37.16 versus his fastest time of the session, a 37.03. And again, only 1/1000th of a second right now, separating Langer and Burkhardt and deciding who would have the inside of row number 2. For the moment, Kevin Langer is your man.
Is on. I mean, I tell you what, it's going to be close. We've got about half a second covering our top 6 right now. That's how close it is. And there's still a few people on the outskirts of that. Don't discredit, likes of Forster, Vaccaro, who are knocking on the door of it. Wilson too. There's a few names that we normally expect to see up there. Joshua Justice too, maybe a little bit further down than where he would normally expect to see himself. So there's still plenty of time to, I say plenty of time, there's a chance for to get probably about another lap in, but
yeah, I'd say laps, maybe 2 laps max, exactly. As we take a look here, as Murphy Nichols currently sitting 6th, only 47,000ths of a second off of Charles Bailey's times, and both of those drivers currently on track. And as you said, Beans Forster sitting back in 7th, and not all that far back, only a little bit less than 2/10 back, as we track Darian Taggart coming down the hill right now in Taggart in that blue number 75 machine.
He got it all wrong in the final sector. He was on an absolute blinder. I was keeping an eye on it. Personal best in the second, faster than anyone in the third as the 40. Wow, that's a tank slapper and a half. Well held. Well, okay. There's the curse of the commentator if there is well held, sir, and then proceeds to lose it, nearly fully rotating it, but Morgan Bernhard there, getting a bit loud and leery.
Yeah, but the fact is that he was able to gather it back up, Tim, without hitting anything out there is just absolutely stunning. Because typically when you get into that section of the gravel trap, the car will go absolutely flying through the air, and somehow he kept the rear end, which was, I think the rear end was actually leading the nose of that car through the exit of turn 5. Somehow got it completely straightened out there. Absolutely amazing. And the fact that Huffman didn't gather him up. Don't know if you'd see that in a race, but amazing to watch here in qualifying. But I was gonna say, it looked like Taggart, when he had that bad third sector on that last lap, he pitted in very quickly and then went back out to see if he can set another flying lap. Taggart currently 9th fastest in qualifying. Remember, he finished 4th at Summit Point in round 1.
Greg, I don't know if you spotted Kevin Lang has just gone 2nd. Right now, 15 hundredths of a second covers our top 4.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Look at this. Yeah, and you know, and for a moment there, it was 1/1000th of a second separating Langer from Burkhardt, but now with Langer putting in that 136.89, which is only about 4/10 or 39 thousandths off of Wan Chi Lin's times. You know, look at the difference now between Burkhardt and Huffman, where it's only 3,000th of a second separating those two drivers in determining who's going to have the inside of row number 2. And you can see here, Burkhardt is just drafting right up behind the number 89 machine. The question is going to be whether or not they can find any time sitting 2nd and 3rd car in that pack.
But Lynn will have done, by the time qualifying finishes, half the amount of laps as these guys. And as things stand at the moment, nobody's been able to beat him. It's been a mesmeric, biblical qualifying session from Lynn, who's just come out and been on pace straight away. But Burkhardt pulling out of the slipstream, they're looking for, it looks like he was racing, but that's qualifying done and dusted for those guys.
Yeah, that there is no chance that either. Obviously now Huffman having contact there with the lead car, he's not going to improve. Morgan Burkhardt also not going to improve there. We're watching Justin Huffman on, or at least we were watching Justin Huffman on track there for a moment. Huffman looks like his session is now done. Best he can do is 14th fastest. We're watching now Mark Sherman in the number 18 car. He's trying to improve upon a 140.27, which is currently good for 19th, as he comes out of turn 12 and crosses the line. And let's see if he can move up in the order. And it does not appear as though he's going to do that. He comes home with a 140.72. Ray Blethen runs his fastest lap on his last lap. He's looking to improve again. He's trying to improve on a 138.89. He currently sits 17th.
There's a few people a little bit out of position, and I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see what Darian Target can do. Because he did display some really good pacing qualifying. Couldn't get the consistent lap together, though, to get himself much higher up the field. Beans Forster as well. He's starting from 8th. Maybe a little bit out of place for him, too.
Yeah, a little further back than I would have expected. All right, so we've got the field now gridding up real quick here, and your pole sitter tonight for race number 2 is Wan Chi Lin from 5-Star Motorsport. Fast time, qualifying time for him, pole time for him, a 136.852. Starting 2nd tonight on the outside of the front row, Kevin Langer. Jamison Huffman will start 3rd tonight with Morgan Burkhardt to his left, starting in 4th. Murphy Nichols will start on the inside of row number 3 with Charles Bailey starting in 6th. Then we've got Charles Vaccaro starting 7th with Beans Forster starting in 8th. A little bit of a surprise there for Beans, starting back on the 4th row. Darian Taggart will start 9th tonight with Deacon Greenfield to his left starting in 10th. On your 6th row, John Wilson will be on the inside starting 11th with Andrew Wozencroft next to him starting in 12th. Then we've got Nagisa Yoshikawa. He's going to start 13th tonight in the number 98 machine with Justin Huffman starting 14th. Josh Justice in the number 99 machine finds himself all the way back in 15th position on the inside of row number 8. Jim Brewster looking for a little redemption after the Formula 4 race tonight. He's going to start 16th. Ray Blethen will start 17th this evening, with John Casey starting to his left on the outside of row number 9. Then we've got Mark Sherman and Joe Camilleri. They'll make up row number 10. Joaquin Effinger and Tom Froling, they'll start 21st and 22nd tonight. And rounding out the field in the number 73 machine is Wayne Buttermore. And there's why the spot didn't come up right. We've got the short pace lap here this evening, and we'll work in the ad for our sponsor for tonight's race when we have a chance. That is Grassroots Motorsports, as Wan Qilin leads the field down through turn 12. Green flag now in the air as the drivers all start to spread out. Jamison Huffman, he's going to try and split the 17.
Contact the background.
2 cars going off, and I think that's Charles Vaccaro, and I think Yoshikawa went off. Darian Taggart also included in that melee on the front straight. But as they came out of turn 1 and over through turn 3 now, Jamison Huffman has worked his way to the lead. Wan Qilin holding on for dear life, holding on to second. And then we've got Morgan Burkhardt and Kevin Langer going down through the S's on the very first lap, side by side. We've got Burkhardt now, who takes over 3rd position. That's going to shuffle Kevin Langer, who's starting the outside of the front row, all the way back into 4th position here, Tim. And wow, what a big melee there on the front straight.
It was, you could smell the danger starting to brew, like, you know, a hot pot of coffee in the morning, Greg, because there was a lot of cars tightly packed all over one another, fighting over the same inches of tarmac, and that tight right-hander, you know, if you're not careful, it's so easy to understeer these cars, despite being rear-wheel drive. And, well, there were some victims and some deaths, unfortunately, of the virtual nature.
The virtual deaths, yes.
Not the real ones, so yeah, thank goodness. But so sad for Vaccaro and Taggart, because, well, you heap praise on someone and then apologies, gents, to the Kirsten commentator about that one.
Yep, it was all your fault. All right.
It is.
so Vaccaro and Taggart, it looks like most likely their races are done. Caleb Pocock and Stephen Bouquet, they did not make tonight's race. And we jump now and look at the front of the field here, where it is Jamison Huffman, it's Wan Qilin, it's Morgan Burkhardt. 2 out of the 3. I mean, you could have checked in with us 15 minutes ago, and we would have been telling you the same story. Big gap now. Back to Murphy Nichols in the number 5 machine. He gets around Kevin Langer now. So Langer running in 5th. Charles Bailey in the 63 car is now 6th. And Forster, Greenfield, Justice, and Wozencroft, your top 10. But for the moment, it is a 3-car battle for the lead very early on in this 20-minute race from Road Atlanta.
So a big shout out to Josh Justice, Raymond Blevin up 6 places each, and Joe Camilleri at 5. They've had cracking starts here, Greg, and well, I'll tell you what, as someone who's only up 1 place so far, Forster at the, well, not quite the rear chain, last but 1, that 231 machine there, and well, it's getting close in this little group, and you can only feel, you know, slipstream not as strong as you could imagine as what we've experienced in the Formula 4s, but well, this is a sight we were experiencing in the previous race. The top 3 are going 3 wide into the chicane. Here we go.
And as they come down here, as Wan Qilin to the inside, then Jamison Huffman, he's going to try to hold position as all 3 drivers drift in formation out of turn 10B and up the hill. Wan Qilin, he's your new leader. Morgan Burkhardt manages to get around the 89 machine of Huffman. He'll slot into 2nd, and then Huffman 3rd. And you can see here our 2nd pack, led by Murphy Nichols, that white, black, and red number 5 machine. Then Kevin Langer in the black 17, Charles Bailey and Beans Forster. They've made up a ton of ground there as they started to make their way down into the chicane there and onto the front straight. That just that little bit of battling from our leaders, Tim, has allowed them to pick up a bunch of time. As looks like Charles Vaccaro, unfortunately, let's take a look here as we take a look at that replay, and Vaccaro just got, you know, just so unfortunate there on that replay with Vaccaro getting the tap and everybody else going around there, and Vaccaro now stuck on the pit lane as we go back to the real life action, the live action here with Wan Qilin, Morgan Burkhardt, and Jamison Huffman.
I tell you what, I didn't quite clock who it was. I think it might have been Joshua Justice. Got an absolutely amazing run out the final turn. And that's what just caused it, where he was just catching so much quicker than the guys in front, and had to check up a little bit, as I have a feeling this is going to be a change of the lead here, Greg.
Yeah, and Burkhardt, he gets the pass done before they get the braking finish going into 10A. He's going to slide in ahead of Wan Qilin, and I think Lin, rightfully so, decided not to put up a big fight there, because every time they battle going into 10A, that second pack gets a little bit closer. But Murphy Nichols starting to break free a little bit from Kevin Langer and Beans Forster. Well, you know, I just said that they weren't going to fight going down into the chicane. Here they are, almost 3 wide, going up into turn 3. 2 wide is Wan Qilin and Jamison Huffman as they start to roll down the hill, as Murphy Nichols inches closer and closer every 100 feet or so that they run here, Tim.
I mean, it's amazing, really. You know, these guys are really fighting it out. It's a real dogfight up front for this victory. But yet they're still setting the fastest laps of the race between them. I really don't know how they're doing this right now, Greg. And as try as he might, Murphy Nichols he's trying to get onto the coattails of them to make this a 4-way fight and bring along, well, his friends who are tucked up right behind him. Langer, Forster, Bowley and Greenfield in that train behind, as they're on board with Lin.
And as we are, so Nichols is actually the second fastest driver on track currently, and I think it shows Burkhardt being the fastest. Wan Qilin now sitting in third, trailing as the 89 and the 40 go side by side, and there you go, as Wan Qilin steps to the inside for a moment, realizes he's not going to have any room to make it 3 wide, but he's going to have to try and get a run out of 10B underneath the Fox Factory Bridge. Here as they come down the hill side by side once again. It is Wan Qilin and Burkhardt. Lin not able to get the pass done until after the start finish line, but now slots in, and for a moment there taking a look on our leader as well, Tim.
What worries me about these guys up front is the amount of racing they're doing. It's great to watch for us at home, as Murphy Nichols is now right onto the rear of the train, but with all these, you know, alternative lines they're having to take, where there's so much side-by-side action, so much battling, it's what it's doing to their tyres, Greg, because they're going to be working overtime. They run the risk of overheating, and then someone like Nichols, who's coming up behind fast, who has been taking the racing line, maybe considering his tyres a little bit, he's going to come up to the back of them, and he's going to be in a really strong position.
And here's a little bit further back. We're watching right now. It is the battle for 9th position, where we've got Blethen, Justice, Brewster, and Huffman. Oh, and let's not forget John Casey, by the way. That's Justin Huffman. John Casey in the 78 machine, I believe in that black and gray machine, sitting right at the back of the pack. But a great little battle here, all the way back for 9th position, as we now jump up to the lead. And look at this once again, as they come down to 10A.
I don't know if you clocked that. Burkhardt was braking on the straight there. This brake light's just blinking on as he was pushing Huffman past Lin, and well, there you go. Murphy Nichols is right onto it, and so's Langer, and so's Forster, and so's Greenfield. And what's a freeway fight for the lead? We've got a plethora of cars now, Greg.
Yeah, and Wan Qilin got a horrible run through 10A and 10B, and you saw as Murphy Nichols was just able to drive right around the outside of him, driver's left, through 10B, up the hill, under the bridge, and up now into 3rd position to drop Wan Qilin, who's our pole sitter, back into 4th place. But it is now not a 3-car battle, not a 4-car battle for the lead. It is a 6-car battle, as Kevin Langer and Beans Forster now are right in the middle of it as well. Real quick, Tim, let's talk about our sponsor for tonight's second race. I think this is as good a time as any before they get to turn 10A. Built for the true sports car enthusiasts, Grassroots Motorsports has one mission: to be your personal guide to the sports car world. And whether it's online at grassrootsmotorsports.com, in print or in person, the racers and builders, those car nerds at Grassroots Motorsports, take you behind the scenes and show you how to make your car better. Along the way, they'll give you a taste of everything else this hobby has to offer, from 1,000 horsepower track monsters to cool street cars built in driveways. And of course, they maintain a collection of staff-built project cars, because hands-on technical articles, they're not typed behind a desk, they're scribbled down in the garage. To not only read but become part of the story, head on over to grassrootsmotorsports.com.
I was expecting something. I was thinking this is going to end in tears again. And
Yes.
I was expecting something big to happen. And no.
Well, that's why I was staying quiet, Tim, because
yeah.
I was waiting for the and there you go. As Jamison Huffman gets a whole bunch of apex curbing at turn 12, gets the car sideways, straightens it back up. He's going to fall now back into 4th position. I was waiting for the big bang, Tim. I didn't want to say anything because I was waiting for like the crunching of metal to happen, and it just it didn't. But there we go. Morgan Burkhardt, your leader. Murphy Nichols, Wan Chi Lin, Jamison Huffman now falling back into 4th position here at Road Atlanta. Let's take a look at this replay.
So we're on board with Jamison Huffman. He's going to take too much curb and a bit of grass, and Tokyo Drift Start. He makes it round turn 12 there. As, oh wow, it's happening all in the background, and Burkhardt's really pulled out an advantage here, and Nichols has gone from 2nd to 4th in the space of a corner.
And here we go as they come out of turn 7 now with Langer and Forster looking, trying to devise a way to get around Wan Chi Lin and maybe around Murphy Nichols as well, as they come now once again over towards that bend and drop down the hill down towards 10A and 10B, replacing, I talked about that gravity cavity years ago before they put in the chicane, and Murphy Nichols getting a little wide going through turns 10A and 10B. And you know, maybe Tim, as Murphy had to work awfully hard to get back up to our, at the time, our lead trio, he might have done a little job on his tires as well.
It's where I'm thinking that Nichols might, no.
And there you go.
No. No, I was thinking maybe he's going to be in a bit of a stronger advantage where he, saved his tires. Well, in the space of a lap, he's gone from 2nd to 6th. But good news, Greg, is we've got 8 minutes left remaining in this race, and I'm going to put it on the line now. I can guarantee that these guys aren't going to finish in the order they're in. I don't know how they're going to quite finish, but I get a feeling that we're going to see this evolve and change, rapidly over the course of the next
Tim,
laps.
we call that going out on a limb here in the United States.
Yep.
There you go.
We do here too, and I'm going out on one fully.
There you go. So there you go. Tim Cox has predicted it. There will be at least one change in position before the end of this race in 7.5 minutes. The one thing, Tim, I'm most amazed by so far is every one of these cars that we're watching at the front of the pack, they've got all their mirrors on the doors. I don't understand. I don't understand.
Body panels, it's genuinely amazing how they managed to do this. Here comes Lynn. Or maybe not. Well, I'll tell you what, he's not giving this up, is he?
No, and very tight, close, tight fighting there. No touching from either one of these drivers. Maybe they're getting used to driving the Formula cars where they know if they touch wheels, they're going going for a wild ride here, but mere inches separating Wan Qilin and Morgan Burkhardt here as they go into turn one. A little bit of a wiggle from Burkhardt as he comes off the brakes, gets onto the gas. Of course, with these cars, it's just a light brush of the brakes coming off the front straight going into turn one, but still continuing side by side. This is how this race opened up, Tim, with Burkhardt and Lynn going side by side through turn three and down through the S's. And once again, we saw this in the Formula 4 race, at least momentarily, allowing Jamison Huffman to separate himself from second and the rest of the field. As we jump back to that battle that we've been watching for 9th position, lead car in the field there, that is Raymond Blethen. Then we've got Josh Justice, Jim Brewster, John Casey, Justin Huffman as well. Let's take a look here and see exactly what happened to Deacon Greenfield as he's coming down through the S's going into turn number 5, takes a whole bunch of curbing, misses a whole bunch of apex curbing, and gathers it right up just before he does what almost everybody else does, and that's crunch the concrete over driver's left. Good recovery there by Deacon.
Well, Huffman had pulled out a 1.2 second advantage at the front. That's down to, well, 2 tenths now. That's a whole second good. Well, I tell you what, they're really rapidly capturing him. How has Burkhardt picked up that amount of pace coming? I mean, he's so strong through that chicane, Greg. It's frightening.
Yeah,
doesn't matter what car he's in.
Yeah, he always seems strong there, and he seems much stronger in this car, in the MX-5, heading up towards turn 3. Just seems a little more comfortable there, and certainly comfortable going side by side with Lynn through turn 3. But this time doesn't need to, as he gets by Lynn on the run up the hill, sliding back into second place. Lynn falling back into third here as we now have just 5 minutes remaining. And just look at all the curbing they grabbed there at the apex as those cars just gobble up that curbing, take that compression and settle down so easily on exit.
It's too late for me. I'm trying to make a horrifically bad pun about Halloween, the amount of apex they've taken, where they're gobbling it and them being dressed as goblins.
Goblins?
I can't quite make it work.
Don't do it. No.
It's too late in the morning in the UK right now. But it's what we're staying up for.
You got 5 minutes. You got 5 minutes to work on it. Don't worry. Go for it.
I can go. Thank you.
All right, as they come on down the hill now, and watch you, Lynn, he's going to move to the inside of Morgan Burkhardt going into 10A. Does not quite get alongside under braking, but all the way to the apex manages, and actually that wasn't Burkhardt, that was Huffman, as they again go side by side, no touchy, but Huffman manages to come out of the chicane with the position, manages to hold off Wan Qilin as they start now lap number 11. And I think perhaps not the most surprising, but Beans Forster, who's now made his way up into 4th position, started in 8th tonight. He hasn't really tried to make a move on Wan Qilin yet.
He's kept his cards close to his chest. It hasn't really shown what he's about yet, and I mean, time is running out. We've got 3 minutes left, which is going to give us, well, after this one, I think probably about another 2 more laps roughly, Greg, and he needs to start working his way to the front, because otherwise the clock is working against him right now. And what we've seen from these 3 out in front, Burkhardt, Huffman and Lynn, they're no mugs, and they will not just have their elbows out, but they will be already sharpened, their elbows, and won't give these podium positions up without a real fight.
Yeah, and and Beans has shown to be a very aggressive runner in most cases, usually from the drop of the green flag. But if you look here, he did not get, and this is the 2nd lap in a row, did not get a very good run out of turn 7, that he fell almost 2 full car lengths back from Wan Qilin, and got a poor enough run that Murphy Nichols now is going to make a run at him. As we look at that the field at the front, as Jamison Huffman almost has to take to the grass coming underneath the Fox Factory Bridge, as Morgan Burkhardt runs him all the way driver's right. And Wan Chi Lin just sitting back there and watching. Lin didn't do anything this last lap either. Here, as we now have just a little bit under 2 minutes. I believe we should have one more lap after this one. So as we work the penultimate lap, and again, a 6-car battle for the lead. And oh wow, look at that as Burkhardt got very loose coming over the crest over at the top of turn 3 as he started to work his way down the hill. And it looks like Tim, that maybe the front end of the car just not turning in the way it used to, and Huffman now with position going into 6A.
It's hardly surprising the way that they're shredding these tyres to absolute pieces right now. But even so, it's worth every like dime that these tyres would cost in real life, because the racing we're experiencing now is absolutely epic, as we're going to have 3 wide down the back straightaway.
And Nichols, I think, looks like he wants to make it 4 if he can slot into that little gap. And there's just not quite enough room for the number 5 machine as they come down the hill. We've got Burkhardt to the inside all the way to your right, then Huffman. And Huffman manages from the middle of the track to come through and take the advantage going through 10A and 10B. He has almost a 2.5 car, maybe even 3 car length advantage as they come through turn 12 and get the white flag. One more lap here at Michelin Raceway. Up in second place is Burkhardt, then Wan Chi Lin, then Murphy Nichols. And Beans Forster, who had fallen all the way back into 6th, manages to get around Kevin Langer. And Langer, who started on the outside of the front row, finds himself now all the way back in 6th position.
I'm almost rendered speechless. I'm that excited for these last few corners, last half a lap. Greg as well. Nichols bouncing across the gravel there. Lynn's got his wipers on. It's all happening.
No rain in iRacing, but still the windshield wipers work as Wan Chi Lin. And oh, look as Murphy Nichols almost gets into the back of the number 30 machine as they come through turn 7. And Burkhardt runs wide coming out of 7, takes a lot of grass on the exit there, takes some of that Georgia clay. And once again, side by side at the exit is Murphy Nichols, or probably is Jamison Huffman on your left, Morgan Burkhardt on your right. Wan Chi Lin looking for a slot to go in, maybe even to push the 89 car through, as we're now 2 by 2 going down the hill into braking at 10A. Wan Chi Lin, the odd man. Oh, and Nichols, he gets into the back of the 40 machine, and the 40 machine is off. And it is now Murphy Nichols, it is Wan Chi Lin, it is Jamison Huffman as they come down the hill. And Murphy Nichols, it looks like he's going to go through the long drift as he crosses the stripe. Wan Chi Lin on the last lap takes the win. Jamison Huffman comes home in 2nd. Murphy Nichols comes home in 3rd after that tap of our leader at the time, Morgan Burkhardt. Beans Forster will come home in 4th. Kevin Langer will come home in 5th. Morgan Burkhardt goes from the lead, finishes in 6th position. Andrew Wozencroft will come home in 7th. And look at this battle. Deacon Greenfield, he holds off Josh Justice, who got around Ray Blethen. Greenfield for 8th, Justice for 9th, Blethen for 10th. Jim Brewster and Justin Huffman finish 11th and 12th. And look at that. That was a great battle coming down the hill as well. But congratulations to Wan Chi Lin, our winner. Let's take a look at this replay here at the end. And, you know, I'm starting to wonder, Tim, it looks as though maybe Huffman and Burkhardt got together. I thought maybe Burkhardt had gotten a little bit of a shove from the number 5 machine.
I think it was all happening, wasn't it? And, I mean, Nichols crossed the line practically sideways and only 4 thousandths of a second behind Huffman. And I think you're right. I think it was initially a little bit of a shove, and then he lost it. It then got into the side of Huffman and then just cannoned him off, and you got to feel for Morgan Burkhardt.
Yeah, as we watched that overhead view going into 10A, it looks like both Huffman and Burkhardt for the first time tonight got together, turning in for 10A, And yeah, it looks like Nichols might have gotten into the back of Burkhardt, but that was only after Burkhardt had to, had lost a lot of momentum after the first contact, and then Huffman and Burkhardt get together again. But again, your winner tonight, Wan Shi Lin in the 5-star motorsport machine, Beans Forster. And I was talking, what about Beans Forster sitting all the way back in 4th position? He's got to work his way up. Well, Beans finds himself as the 2nd driver across the line. Kevin Langer comes home in 3rd. Andrew Wozencroft, and I guess I don't. I don't see.
I
that's
think
not.
That's
not.
Or they've
Maybe.
picked up penalties, and that's the only thing I can think of, because this is a little bit different. I mean, Forster was
we're showing
behind Lynn, so I think Huffman and Nichols have picked up penalties.
Yeah, we're showing Nichols in 10th, Burkhardt in 11th, and Huffman in 12th. Not exactly. They may have already assigned the penalties. I don't know, but that would certainly be something if we see Beans Forster now up in 2nd place. Well, Tim, I don't know how we're gonna fix this and how we're gonna figure this out, because I have sitting in the green room right now Jamison Huffman, I've got Morgan Burkhardt, I've got Murphy Nichols, I've got Andrew Wozencroft, Beans Forster, and Deacon Greenfield. Tell you what, let's do this. Why don't we bring in, because I feel safer doing this, why don't we bring in Deacon Greenfield and Andrew Wozencroft to tell us about that race. I am chicken. To tell us about that race a little bit further back in the field. I guess that was the battle for, I think, 9th position. Tell you what, let's bring in Deacon Greenfield first here, driver of the number 75 machine.
Deacon,
or 36 machine, pardon me.
There you go. Deacon, I mean, that was just, wow. Just wow, really. What a crazy race that was. Obviously, you had a bit of a spin mid-race. It really seemed to hamper yourself. I mean, you showed an absolutely great pace before then. I was really gutted for you.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy race, as you obviously showed. The grip was definitely a bit difficult with the new tire model update. So running in the pack, everyone was trying to push for a position, and I just pushed a little too hard over that curb.
Absolutely gutting. I mean, even so, coming into this, if you've been told you were going to finish with 8th, would you have been happy with that?
I'm being told I finished 5th because of drive-through penalties. So
this is what we were just discussing, because we were just showed some results which were very different to how everyone crossed the line, and like we say, penalties probably coming part of that. And iRacing itself is showing you as 5th. I'd give you that one. So, in that case, then how does 5th feel rather than 8th? Even better, have a few freebies at the end.
It feels chaotic as usual with MX5, so it's a fun race as usual.
It's just standard Miatas, I think, really, is that way to describe that. Well,
Absolutely.
Deacon, congratulations on what was going to be an 8th, but turned into a 5th.
Thank you.
All right, there you go, Deacon Greenfield. So tell you what then, Tim, because I'm still too scared to bring these other folks in. Let's bring in Andrew Wozencroft, who he maybe finished 7th, or he might have finished 4th here, driver of the number 80 machine.
Well, we'll be positive and optimistic. Let's go with what iRace is showing, the 4th. Andrew, I mean, that means now that you have climbed, quick maths, 8 places. I mean, yes, I know a few down to penalties at the end, but even so, I mean, 4th from Road Atlanta, you couldn't have hoped for much better than that, surely.
No, not at all. It's so good to be back. I'm not going to lie. I haven't driven with these guys in 6 months. I've been working, traveling, kids, sports, and it's awesome. The new tire model, it's all good, but I can't wait to watch the replay. I was listening to them all through the race. They were screaming, they were yelling, they were laughing. I bet it was so fun to watch. Hey, I just want to say thank you both for doing this.
Hey, I tell you what, Andrew, when there's great racing like this, it just makes our job all the more pleasurable, and it's great to have you back as well. Great to see you back in the car. And I think you summed things up really. It was just wow. An amazing race, great to see, and what MX5s are definitely all about. I mean, even so, you were right in the thick of it, in the mid-pack. What was it like from your perspective? You spoke about, laughter, joviality from everyone on the in-game comms. Did it feel like that inside the car, or was it a bit nerve-wracking at times?
Oh, it's just to have a good time. For honestly, it's a pleasure to drive. It's different than the real thing, of course, right? I mean, you're not too worried about the car. You're just driving to have a good time. But it was great. The mid pack I thought drove really well. I made a couple passes, but really it was just letting the race come to me. I was hoping I can catch him, but if they would have a little bubble or a bobble with the 6 in a row driving together. But no, it was good. A pleasure. You got to get them in here, though. You got to bring them all in, Greg. Just put them all in, and I'm sure it'll be great to listen to.
There you go, Greg.
That'll be mayhem. That'll be absolute mayhem. All right, let's do this. Tim, knowing how the order finished up, let's bring in Beans Forster, and then we've got our winner, Wan Lin. I don't want to leave him out, just because I don't believe we had a chance to interview him last week after the Spec Racer Ford race. So let's bring in. Yeah, let's bring in driver of the 231 machine, Beans Forster.
Beans, welcome along. I mean, you weren't showing your hand very early on. Was that on purpose, or was it just where you couldn't really find a way through and a bit of a lane through the traffic?
I was just trying to get past some traffic. Stuck behind Kevin for a couple laps, and then once I finally got around, I was able to catch up to those guys. But I kept getting a bad run onto the straight in the back there.
Well, yeah, we spotted that. Was it just where you just couldn't really hook it up, or were you sort of like just misjudging, the car in front of you and worried about running in the back of them on corner exit? What was causing that?
I think I was just getting on throttle a little too early, and then I had to lift mid corner because I was pushing out to the edge.
Now, I mean, based on the mayhem that was happening in front of you, I'm sure you would have taken a fourth. It was initially, obviously, after penalties, we're being told it's second. I mean, all the more better. I mean, what two great results for you this evening.
That was by far one of the craziest races I've ever done.
I did hear at one point over the in-games comms, I think it was Murphy Nichols yelling, slow down a bit, let me make it 4 wide, which I think just summed it all up nicely, really.
Yeah, that was extremely chaotic, and do it over and over again.
Oh, definitely. I don't blame you at all. That's Beans Forster, who finished second here today at Road Atlanta. Greg, you say you managed to grab Yang Jinglin?
We can definitely bring him in, absolutely. Although I was just now spending a little time in the green room, and even Wan Chi wanted us to bring in the whole pack. I don't know if that's a good idea. Let's just bring in Wan Lin, our winner tonight in Spec Miata.
Yang 2 weeks, 2 rounds, 2 wins.
Obviously, today's race was a lot more exciting.
Oh yeah, well, it's not Sonoma for starters, so that's always going to make life a little bit easier and a bit more exciting. But even so, I mean, you put it on pole. You used half the amount of laps as what everyone does. I mean, coming into the race, you look like you were on absolute fire and in a real rich vein form. Did you feel really confident?
I think it's just I had a little bit more seat time in the updated car compared to other front runners, I would say. I mean, last season really I was near Jamieson, Morgan, and everyone, but I'm always a little bit behind. But I think with some extra practice and some setup from my team, I really have a head start, I would say. So I didn't really put much effort into qualifying and just try to average it out a little bit.
I mean, that's going to be a bit depressing for your competitors here, that you didn't really put much effort into qualifying and still put it on pole and look very comfortable at the top through the whole of qualifying.
But I mean, still is I think both Jamieson and Morgan were running modified baseline setup, and they didn't have much practice. So I already have I put more effort in than them, I'll say.
Definitely. And I'll tell you what we're going to do, because Greg is too chicken too. What we're going to do is to drag everyone across, and we're going to give him one word to explain the race today. Hold on.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see.
Let's go. They've all asked for it, so let's we'll give them what they want. Gentlemen,
you get what you pay for,
right.
boy. You get what you pay for.
I could be making a very much mistake. Okay, you've got one. I'm going to go through you. You've all got one word to explain the race today. Morgan, I'll kick off with you.
What?
Murphy,
Amazing.
Deacon,
WTF?
Jameson,
Penalties.
Yangji.
Bananas.
There we go. And I
There
think
we go.
That's,
And they're
that's
all
all
out.
you need. Yeah. Nicely done there, Greg. Kick
One
them
word
as
and
you go
gone.
along. Yes. And I think that sums up today nicely.
I think it does. All right, so let's wrap things up here before I start thinking about elephant things. All right. I've been thinking about Horton Hears of Who and Dumbo for some reason. Anyway, let's wrap things up here from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, Tim, as we get ready. Next week, we are going to be moving quite a bit north. We're going to be heading up to Lime Rock Park, where we're going to be running the Grand Prix circuit, which I believe is the circuit with the little chicane there at the end of the no-name straight. And we're going to have our MX-5 drivers. They're going to return, so we're going to get to see, I guess, as much chaos and hear as much chaos as we did here this evening. They're going to be our very first race, and then we're going to have the Spec Racer Fords return as well. And I always love watching the Spec Racer Fords on that GP circuit, GP version of Lime Rock, because inevitably half the field spins as they come off the throttle and go to the or come off the brakes and go back to the throttle there for that little chicane there. But another wonderful evening, and two epic battles for the win here, both in Formula 4 and certainly and I guess it turned out, Tim, not being battles for the win, but maybe like battles for 9th, 10th, and 11th as it actually worked out, as most of those drivers had earned themselves drive-through penalties, apparently.
I've run out of words, Greg. I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah, all right. Well, since we're both pretty much out of words, let's definitely wrap things up here. So for Tim Cox, for John Robertson, I'm Greg Ginsburg. We'll see you next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, for the next round of the Esports Racing League's fall season number 7 from Lime Rock Park. Have a great week, everybody.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.